Hi, and welcome to PhD Career Stories with Tina Persson. Today we have a guest. It's Joel Baker, and he's an English coach from World English Coaches. And he offers coaching for leaders and executives looking to improve their fluency in English. And till today, he has helped and coached over 500 individuals globally. So, welcome, Joel.
Hi, Tina. It's great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you on board here. And we have an exciting topic to talk about that might impact your future business, or at least it's going to impact many coaches globally. And that is perspectives on ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, and coaching, and in your case, the English language as an English coach. So, who could have better perspectives on that topic than you, Joel? So, my first question to you is that if you now think about ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, how do you think that will impact your job as a coach in the future in the English language, being an English coach?
Okay, it's a great question. Yeah, and I've thought about that a little bit. I think that in general, AI and especially ChatGPT is going to change the workplace. I think, uh, unfortunately, I think it probably is going to take away a lot of jobs. Maybe not right now, but over time. But we've seen from the past that humans adapt, and when we lose one job, another one comes up, right? So, but as far as it will affect me specifically, um, I think right now not so much. um, what I do is I help people with their speaking, right? And at the moment, ChatGPT is not really helping people speak. It's text based, right?
Hmm.
But it's developing very quickly, and who knows, maybe in a year, a couple of years, maybe it will be able to have a conversation with people, and they can maybe try to use that to practice their English and get feedback, and it could possibly replace me at some point. I don't know. but um but I think at the moment, I think people feel more comfortable working with a person. you
Hmm.
know um just think about when you call customer service and you get the answering machine or you get a robot. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes to communicate with a robot. Um so but you know they do have the technology um to improve that communication, so it's always a possibility, I think. But as far as what we have right now that I'm aware of, um I think that so as I said, I primarily help people with their speaking, but I
Hmm.
also help people with their writing in some cases. And that is an immediate impact that I could see affecting me, is maybe before some professionals asked my help for writing emails, for example, or things like that. But now they can just ask ChatGPT to do it for them.
Yeah.
um, so, and ChatGPT is not really going to, excuse me, it's not really going to teach them how to write, but it can do it for them. So in that sense, it's kind of like a crutch. Um, so they're not going to be improving their skills, but they will no longer have the need for that skill, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes
Um,
sense. And that's interesting because you touched on something. You said that, do you like to, when you call a support and that is a robot machine, they want to direct me in the right direction and say, tell me what you need. And then I start off and then they connect me wrongly because the robot machine doesn't understand my dialect because I'm from south part of Sweden, and this robot machine is trained for Stockholm Swedish. And I just feel
oh,
more and more frustrated because this machine doesn't connect me correctly. It's absolutely nothing I can do. So I can see that, if I'm going to be coached by an AI and I start to get frustrated, how will that work? I will just be even more irritated, most likely. Or there's a risk that I can be that. Yeah. But
Yeah, for
coming to
sure.
that, with that, you get help with writing. If you just stay, I know you help people writing, but put it
Hmm.
this way, could it be so that you as a coach can focus on other things so you don't have to help them with the basic English? Is that an opportunity for you?
Yeah, yeah. So one way that I could utilize ChatGPT, for example, so if I get a client who they need a lot of help with their writing and they need help um, with speaking and other issues, yeah, I could potentially use ChatGPT to help them in certain areas, like with their writing, um, and that would save time, and that would allow us to focus more on things that ChatGPT cannot help with. So it can make things more efficient as far as time goes. I think that there's some potential there.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to also, because I have dyslexia, so it's sort of a security as well. I can have someone very quickly just polishing my English sort, but it doesn't mean that that English that is polished has the right message, because maybe I don't understand. I'm not good enough in English, so the English that's written by me, I can't really understand the small nuances in it. Can you see that as a risk when it comes to people, depending on the level they have? They write something in their own language, get it translated to English, and then polish the English. And then in the end, they actually don't know what they have written. Can you see such a risk in using ChatGPT?
Yeah, and I think you see that same risk using Google Translate. Um,
Mm,
there are just so many words. I learned Spanish as a second language, for example, and just translating from English to Spanish or vice versa, you have to be careful because there are a lot of words that have a general meaning, but in different situations, the meaning is completely different. And my initial thought is that ChatGPT will do a probably a better job than Google Translate has done at deciphering what the context is so they can
mm,
use the right translation. But I think that you're always going to have some issues with that. But I
mm.
think I think that over time it'll get better and better. But as of right now, I think that is a problem potentially.
No problem. But I like to go back to now here to you and looking at what ChatGPT and AI for you as a coach. If you say, what could be positive for you and your clients when you work with your clients.
Hmm.
Before we go to resumes and CVs and so, I like to you say what could be positive for you as a coach to help your clients and what could be sort of a little bit drawback with this new tool. Would you like to elaborate around that?
Yeah. So like I was saying before, I think that one of the major benefits of it is that we can be use our time more efficiently.
Mm,
So so for example, sometimes I have clients that ask me questions that I don't know. For example, like what word can we use to describe X, Y, and Z? And and that's the kind of thing that you could ask ChatGPT, and he would probably know as well as I do, maybe even
mm,
better because he can search
yeah.
the whole internet now. Um, so so I think that there's good potential to be more efficient.
Mm,
And I'm just a human. I'm not a robot, so I don't know everything, and that is the advantage. So the advantage I have is that I'm a human, so I have that emotional intelligence, that common sense that AI doesn't really have at the moment. Um, but AI has more total information than I have. So,
mm,
so for example, if I don't know something, I can even use this tool myself when something comes up and I need to help somebody understand something or give them a word for something that maybe slipped my mind or that I or whatever. Um, and as far as drawbacks go, I think that I don't know if you remember if this was the case for you in Sweden, but at least for me, back when I was in high school and college, I used to have at least a handful of phone numbers memorized. I didn't
yes. Yeah, yeah.
have, you know, so, but nowadays, you don't have to memorize a phone number anymore. You just have it saved, on your phone.
Yeah.
And the same thing with a calculator. You don't really have to do math in your head anymore or on paper. Just pull out your smartphone, use the calculator, and it's
Mhm.
done. So I think that that's the problem, is that as technology gets better and better, and especially with AI, this is going to be increased exponentially now. We depend less and less on our own capabilities, our own brains. So, and as we use our brains less and less, it's like a muscle. So we're going to, unfortunately, in my opinion, we're going to get dumber and dumber
Get
over time
dumber and
as
dumber.
we, yeah, that's what I think.
And I took my iPhone here because now you said what phone numbers do I remember? And now thinking about it, it's like I remember my parents' number. I even remember my mother's sister's number.
Mhm.
And then I start to wonder, and then I can still remember some old friends from 30, 40 years ago, but then that's it.
Mhm.
And it is also going so bad, Joe, that some names I don't remember because I can just go to Facebook and find them or something. And that is a little bit scary, actually. I have noticed that with myself. I'm sort of not trying to remember.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that can absolutely be something in it. But we will go to something here because this is something I have a lot from my clients, and I try to introduce it myself as a career coach. It is about writing motivational letter and resume and how to use that, or maybe use ChatGPT as a support tool. But it's a
Mhm.
really trick because I played around a lot with myself, and I learned that I need to write certain prompts and I need to be careful a little bit. But I do believe there is a potential, particularly for people that doesn't 100% understand the job. So Shatti can help you to understand the job. But I really would like to have your perspectives on this. So could we start with a motivational letter, for example? What ideas and perspectives you have on that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So from my experience and also talking with other people that have used ChatGPT a lot, um, it has proven to be very good for getting ideas and for, making a letter longer, for example.
Mm,
So let's say you want to write a motivational letter. Um, so probably the best way to do that would be to have ChatGPT do that for you, and then to go through there and see what you like, see what you don't like, make some changes. And I think it can save you a lot of time. But I think you still need that human touch, especially for something that you want to motivate others. Um, from my experience, a lot of the text that ChatGPT produces, it's very good. Like as far as the language, like it's good English. Uh, it's ordered well, has a good structure and that kind of thing. But I haven't found it to be um, like, to use that the same word, motivational or inspiring or really creative. It's kind of like a general creativity. Like, yeah, it'll come up with some ideas that I didn't think about, but it's not going to come up with like an amazing idea that you just love. You know, that's from my experience, but I'm sure that other people have used it and found some really interesting things, I would imagine.
mm. Yeah, I don't know. I have used it, and I agree with you. It's hard to find maybe the creativity coming out. And here you come. You are an expert in the English language, and I think about Shakespeare. Could
Mhm.
Chat GPT create such a text like Shakespeare, or when you listen to Frey and these Ron Atkinson when they are writing text in a completely new style? Is that something that ChatGPT could imitate or do for you if you ask him to?
Yeah, yeah. So, um, I've heard people talk about how they use it to write poetry. They can write poetry now, and the poetry is not bad. People say it's pretty good. I mean, it's
It's
not.
pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it may not, inspire you so much necessarily or something like that, but it's better probably than the average American could write.
Mm,
And the advantage too is that ChatGPT does it in just seconds or minutes. So a
Mm.
person may have to take all day long thinking about things or waiting for inspiration to strike, whereas ChatGPT can just pump it out in seconds.
Mm.
Um, uh, and as far as like imitating Shakespeare or other writers, I think that that is something it can do. Um, for example, I don't know if I haven't tried it with Shakespeare, but I know that people have tried like writing speeches in the style of, say, Donald Trump, for example, like, and and so what it'll do is that, like, I guess it searches and has a database of all the different speeches or whatever that Trump has given, and it can just kind of mimic and reproduce that same type of speech, and it sounds just like him. So
Sounds lots like him. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
because I played around with, I told Chatty to write a rude motivational letter. It was rude. And I said,
Mm,
that was, could you change it? I changed my mind. Could you make it more optimistic and future like? And Chatty change it so it became different in the tone. But still, I noticed that if I use ChatGPT, it's my words, but Chat mixes in sort of other words that I normally wouldn't use. And
mm,
so far, I check them, but it is, as you say, is this the word that I should use in this situation here? Or is it something that I can learn from? So I, being non-speaking, having English as my second language, I can actually learn, I could use this so I can increase my vocabulary.
mhm,
That's maybe another way of learning English. I don't know, from your point here, you are English teacher and you're English coach, and can I learn from ChatGPT? So you can ask the right prompts. Could you,
mhm.
this text here, could you write it in three different ways with different sort of synonyms? So you can start to learn
Yeah,
more words.
yeah. So even before AI, just reading an article in English, you're going to learn more vocabulary. You're going to expose yourself to
Mm,
better ways of writing and speaking. So ChatGPT can kind of take that and kind of to a higher level and an interactive level.
mm,
So it would be, you know, the same idea, but you're going to be getting a little bit of interaction from AI, and you're going to see, instead of just this one word, you can see a couple different
yeah,
alternatives.
yeah.
So yeah, I think it can be used for that for sure.
Mhm. I'm coming to another thing that I know when I say, yeah, it's okay to use ChatGPT when it comes to writing your motivational letter. There are strategies I know on the market how to extract, let's say, a job ad and let ChatGPT explain the job ad for you. You can then tell Chat to extract the bullet points that you can
Hmm.
actually highlight in your resume. But from your perspective, and please elaborate around it, I'm coaching a lot of high performing professionals. They are PhDs and postdocs and so, and they say, "Yeah, but Tina, this is cheating. I'm cheating
Mm,
now." Mm.
yeah.
And what would you say?
Hmm. That's a tough one. Um,
Yes, it is. I find it tough too.
yeah, yeah. Um, well, technically, I don't think that we have any rules yet in our society saying that you cannot use it for that. So I don't know if it's technically cheating, but um, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. Um, I think that if somebody is relying on ChatGPT to do that work for them, I think that their mental capacity is going to go down a little bit over time. Whereas somebody who does the work themselves, they're going to be sharper, I think, and they're going to really know what the position is because they actually took the time to read it themselves and to extract that information and reword that information themselves. So I think on a small scale, at least, that those people who do the work will be in a better place.
Mm,
Um, but the problem is, um, if you want to get a job, it's not just the first one you apply to you get. It's a kind of a numbers game. So
mm,
if let's say one person, they do all the work themselves, and so they only have time to apply to 10 different jobs, for example.
mm, mm,
But somebody else can apply to 10 jobs because I'm sorry, 100 jobs because they're using ChatGPT. So
mm.
they obviously have a clear advantage for getting that
Yeah,
job.
yeah, yeah.
So we have an expression: if you can't beat them, join them. So that could apply to this as well.
Mm,
So on a practical level, I would probably think that it makes more sense to use all the tools at your disposal to get the job initially, but try not to rely on AI too much, um, just for your own sake, and your own development.
mm. I think, I'm happy you say so, because when I say cheating, well, if you never learn what the job field is you want to enter, it's not cheating, but you're going to cheat yourself. But it's a number game. I exactly say that. So if you can speed up the number of applications, use it,
Hmm.
because it is a number game. In the end, you need a certain amount of applications to nail a job. So I think that, I completely agree with you. But if you start to rely on, yeah, I'm going to use chats. It doesn't matter. I don't know what the job is. That's going to dig a very deep hole, because then you come to the interview and you can't answer the questions, because in the end you write an application so you are prepared for the interviews. And I think there can be the pitfall that you
Hmm.
come to the interview and they realize you have no clue about the job. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Because you don't even remember what the job is or what the description said or anything. Yeah.
So it's actually as it was before I started as a career coach, and people came to me and they applied for jobs, and then no, it was, sorry, I was lying. It was not when I was a career coach. It was when I worked as a recruiter, and I had a job out, and I learned very quickly I better give a ring, and I asked, why did you apply? And sometimes I heard, which one, which of them? So they had no clue about the job. So it's sort of the same thing here, that use ChatGPT, but be smart. You can't cheat too much. So I wouldn't say cheating. It's more working. Use ChatGPT and be smart when you use ChatGPT in your job search. So yeah, it was cool. It's interesting. So in your, are you using ChatGPT by yourself? I haven't asked you. But
Um, I use it a little bit just to kind of experiment and play around with it,
yeah.
and be familiar with it. But at the moment, I'm not really using it,
Mm,
for my business.
mm,
Um, I tried a few things that I thought I could maybe use for my business, but I wasn't all that impressed, at least with the prompts that I gave it.
mm,
But it's something that I'm probably going to try again later.
mm, mm. So we coming back to here. I forgot to ask you how you are using it, but we're coming back to these people that think they are cheating by using ChatGPT. So what advice would you mentioned it a little bit, but you maybe could just sharpen the arguments a bit, that no, it's not
Hmm.
really cheating. It's how you use it and in what way you use it. So, what advice would you give to clients that I'm coaching and you are coaching that say, I'm a bit hesitant here to use ChatGPT? I feel it's
Yeah.
cheating, and I'm afraid the company understand I use ChatGPT. What advice would you give?
Okay. Well, yeah, and that is an issue because, um, different, platforms. I think Google and
Mm,
probably LinkedIn and other companies, they have a way to detect if something was produced by AI or not. Um, and that is a danger. So um, they also have, apps that will kind of change the AI. Supposedly, it doesn't trigger that AI, alarm or alert. It will make it look like it's written by a human. I don't know how true that is, but that's what they say. Because if you have AI modifying AI produced
yeah,
text, I don't really see why it wouldn't still look like AI. But
yeah.
but they have those products out there. Um, yeah, and so as far as advice, so in my opinion, I think that, um, Pandora's box is open.
mm,
AI is here and it's here to stay. So I don't think there's any way to stop it really. Um, so unfortunately for people who maybe are more old school or they are not real keen on the latest technology, I think that this is just my opinion, but I think that a lot of people will kind of be left behind if they don't find a way to utilize AI.
mm,
I think there's still some time. I don't think it's, this year, but I think in the next few years, I think that
mm,
people who don't use it will start to see the disadvantages of that.
mm, mm.
Um, yeah, a more extreme example. I don't know if you're familiar with Neuralink. It's
I have heard about it, absolutely, but please, yeah,
So that's just kind of taking this to the extreme. So Neuralink is basically putting AI directly in your brain. You're
yeah,
connecting
yeah,
your brain to AI and to the
yeah,
internet.
yeah.
So when we get to that point, imagine that you're a lawyer or a doctor or some professional, and you don't have Neuralink, but your colleagues or your competition does. And so when there's a project to do or a question to answer, they're going to have access to all the information and access to AI instantly, basically.
In
And
the
you're
brain.
not. Yeah.
Mm,
So you're going to be at a big disadvantage because you're not going to have the
mm,
same information or the same mental capacity that they will have.
mm,
And so you'll be at a disadvantage in the market and in the workplace. So I think that you can see a similar thing now while AI is still not in our brains yet, literally. Um, if somebody's using AI to do a project, they can get that project done much faster, and they probably will come up with some ideas that someone without AI would not come up with.
mm, mm,
So people who don't take advantage of it, I think, will be at a disadvantage.
mm,
And everybody I think the vast majority of people are going to start using it sooner or later. So if you
mm,
try to push back against that for ethical reasons because you don't want to cheat, I think it's gonna probably hurt your career at some point.
mm.
Um, and if everybody's doing it, I mean, with moral things, like if everybody's killing other people, that doesn't mean it's correct, right?
No, no,
But
all right.
but as far as using a free tool that everybody has access to, I don't think that in and of itself has a moral problem compared to like
Mm,
stealing or killing or those other things. So
mm,
the
mm,
fact that everybody's doing it in a sense in this case, I think could give justification to doing it, even though it doesn't feel quite right in some cases.
mm. No, it's a feeling we have at the moment. The question is how we feel in 2 3 years. The feeling is maybe gone. It's a little bit the
Yeah.
feeling I had. I recall when internet came, and I still remember the first internet with a cube. Basically, it was the Macintosh, and it was not really the cube, it was the next Macintosh, I think. And I went in there and I went to the web, world web, and I'm cheating, I'm looking for information, and I could and I used
Yeah.
that for my PhD. So I sort of had the same feeling that I was looking up information in a way that I shouldn't do, because I should go to the library and read a book.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, it's very interesting, and sharing with you here is also that I talked with, because we are both coaches, and I think we our world in the future will change a bit accordingly. I contacted a friend of mine. She's a coach in a very in a company in Stockholm that is expanding enormously, and they already now is working on integrating AI in the coaching business.
Okay.
So the question is, what is AI going to do? But they say maybe the first question you ask as a coach, a robot machine can take over. So sort of I save time with my coaching hours and can focus on what is
Mm.
really the problem, sort of. I don't say really the problem, but very often I can sit the first session trying to figure out what it's really about, and putting that on AI, and I then later on get access to that dialogue
Mhm.
can help
Yeah.
me as a coach quicker, and I can sort of Now I'm working as a coach on my own, so it's not a topic for me, but she has 80 clients. So
Mm,
it would be beneficial for her to know what group, what challenge they actually have, so she can learn quicker and organize the clients in a different way. So they are implementing it. And, it is only since November, so that's only 4 or 5 months. And it's
yeah.
already now into the loop on how to
Yeah.
connect it into the coach business. And that sort of scares me a bit, Joel. What will happen
Yeah.
in 3 years? What will it look like in 3 years?
Yeah. That just reminded me of something that I think is similar. So when you go to the doctor, you don't immediately see the doctor. You first see
No,
the nurse.
no,
So she
yeah,
checks your
yeah,
blood pressure, takes your temperature, weighs you, etc.
yeah,
So I could see a similar thing, like kind of what you're saying with coaching, where you have
mm,
AI doing those initial questions, getting that
yes.
initial information, and then the doctor or the coach comes in and goes deeper and gives an evaluation. That makes sense. We can see
It
that
makes sense,
already.
doesn't it? Yeah, it makes sense. It's very logical. It makes sense. It's interesting
Yeah,
future we have.
yeah,
In the end,
for
we're just
sure.
sitting with robot machines and, directing a little bit. We are coaching the AIs, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. So we are coming to the end of the podcast here now, Joel, and I'm wondering here, what are your takeaways from the takeaways and learnings from the podcast, from the discussions we had here?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was really interesting hearing that they're already developing uh, AI for coaching. Um, I wasn't aware of that. That it's moving so fast. It's crazy. So uh, I think that as you were saying that it worries you a little bit, and I think now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it should worry me a little bit too because I can see something similar happening. With learning English too. Having an AI robot or something like that um, helping people with their basic issues, and so maybe they feel like that's good enough, and
Mm,
I don't
mm,
know. So um, yeah, so it's definitely interesting. Um,
mm, mm. Yeah, thank you. I think it's very, very nice and lovely words what you're saying there, because I said, without this smartphone I have here in Sweden, we can't park a car. So I know my father that doesn't have a smartphone. He can drive, but he can't park the car because he can't pay the parking tickets. So we are living in a technology driven world, but don't forget, it is people that still drive innovation. So, with those words, I would like to say thank you, Joel, for a very nice chat with you here today. It was absolutely a pleasure talking with you around this exciting and expanding topic. And
yeah,
to
yeah,
all our followers and listeners, I would say thank you for listening. Never forget that PhD Career Stories is here for you. And you can learn more about us on our webpage, phdcareerstories.com. And you also find us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And never hesitate to reach out if you know anyone that you want to have on this show. So, with that said, I say thank you very much and have an absolutely lovely day. Take care.